And thanks for joining us tonight here on the Tuffnell at 10, Tuffnell's most trusted news source. I'm Quick Dick McDick. Well, what a month we've had here in Canada. Kicking off tonight's Tuffnell at 10 with a review of the throne speech delivered September 23rd by Justin Trudeau's minority Liberal government. We now join our field commentator, Quick Dick McDick, for his take on the highlights of the speech. Initial thoughts on the throne speech there, Quick?
Yeah, can anybody tell me who tunes in to watch this shit? Who would subject themselves to watching a lady who's supposed to represent the Queen that has been accused of harassment in the workplace read a piece of irrelevant paper while dressed like a fucking stormtrooper from Star Wars?
Well, I gotta tell you, Quick, that's quite an observation. What did you think about the overall content of the speech?
Yeah, so it looks like Justin McSpendy Socks is at it again, hey? Has anyone told him that creating Canada-wide child and pharmacare is going to cost money? And that if he continues to cripple our economy, nobody's going to need childcare because we're all going to be sitting on our asses at home unemployed?
Well, we're hoping he would know that, Quick Dick.
Yeah, where's all this cash coming from? Retrofitting homes and building electric vehicles? Have you seen the price of a fucking electric car? Are we aware of how many different forms of fossil fuels and resources are required to make said electric cars?
Those are some numbers we'll maybe have to continue to get back to you on, Quick.
Yeah, can someone tell Aladdin that he can't rub a lamp and have Genie come out and make him a prince with an endless supply of money? This is not an evening with Walt Disney!
Well, I hear you, Quick. Final thoughts on the throne speech?
Yeah. This throne speech needed to include our resource sectors, agriculture, oil and gas, mining, forestry, you know, the parts of our economies that are the backbone of Canada and can generate revenue while putting Canadians back to work. All this mule seems to want to do is punish these industries with carbon taxes that do not reduce carbon emissions whatsoever. This speech was a joke, and not the funny kind of joke, the make you want to puke kind of joke.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you on that one, Quick. Thanks for that. We'll be checking in with you later in the program. And now let's check in with our weather correspondent, Big Moustache Al. BMA, what can you tell us about the weather in the Tuffnell area today?
Well, it's kind of showery. It might get more showery or it might clear off. We'll see what happens.
Okay, thanks for that, BMA. What about that extended forecast? How's it looking?
Well, the extended forecast, as far as I can see, is the green is fading and the yellow is strong, and it'll all be white before too long.
Okay, sounds about right, BMA. Thanks for that in-depth look at the weather forecast there. We'll check in with you later.
No problem.
And on August 29th, the statue of Canada's first Prime Minister, Johnny Mcdonald, was torn down and defaced at the end of a peaceful protest in Montreal with no charges laid whatsoever on any persons involved. We now go to our field commentator, Quick Dick McDick, for his thoughts on this. Quick, thoughts on the statue of Johnny Mcdonald?
Yeah, Quick, just wondering if the damage to the statue exceeded, $5,000.
I would assume it did, Quick. What's your point?
I don't know, just wondering if anybody had bothered to check into the Criminal Code of Canada, maybe somewhere around Section 140? Are we just going to throw all of our laws into the wind and let it be one big free-for-all? What was Prime Minister Lawnsocking's response to this crime?
Have we got the Prime Minister's response here? Yeah, good question, Quick. Yeah, we've got it here. Here was his response to the statue being torn down.
I was deeply disappointed by the vandalism that took place over the weekend.
Just as I suspected! Let's let criminals run around and tear everything down! What do you think his response would have been if we would have torn this statue down? Would our auger and hopperless Prime Minister have done something at that point in time?
Well, not quite sure on that one, Quick Dick, but speaking of criminals, another protest, this time in Ottawa by citizens who have, as of recently, been made criminals if they wish to use property that they've safely and responsibly owned for years and years. We now go to the horrifically violent footage of this heinous event in Ottawa, and brace yourselves, folks. This video does display some graphic violence. Oh, sorry, that doesn't look like criminals at all. And as we see here, that even though interviewed by the CBC, there was no MSM coverage aired of this integrity march put on by the CCFR, as it doesn't quite fit the narrative of our federal government. Thank goodness Rebel News and True North managed to get the story out to Canadians. And, just a side note, these criminals even cleaned up some extra garbage that was already there at the end of their march and then went and had a few beers together. Quick thoughts?
Well, it's quite obvious, ladies and gentlemen. We seem to have our criminals backwards in Canada.
I couldn't agree with you more. And now let's check in with our traffic correspondent, Big Moustache Al. BMA, what's happening with the traffic around Tuffnell today?
Well, it appears that there hasn't been any traffic down here for a while, but, definitely coyote. We'll be keeping our eyes peeled for traffic, though.
Well, BMA, thanks for your commitment to accuracy on these traffic updates. We'll check in with you again later in the program. And famous defund the police advocate Alyssa Milano, who has called for a 90% defunding of LA police, calls said police services when she believes there's gunshots being fired on her home property in Los Angeles. We now go to our field commentator, Quick Dick, for his take on this situation.
Alyssa Milano? You mean the lady that was wearing the crochet COVID face mask? Who would have guessed she needed the police?
Well, in her defense, she claims that it was her husband that called the police and not her.
Well, I guess she would, right? Do you mean to tell me that her, Piper, and Paige couldn't lock arms and magically spell the criminal away?
I guess not, Quick. Apparently the assailant turned out to be a neighboring teenager hunting a squirrel with an airsoft gun.
Well, don't you know, those airsoft guns can be pretty dangerous. Don't you know Bill Blair tried banning them here in Canada?
Dangerous to the squirrels indeed, Quick.
Imagine someone who had called to defund the police having to call the police. Whoever would have saw that one coming?
I hear you, Quick. Thanks for that. And now let's head once again to our field correspondent, Big Moustache Al, for our ag report. BMA, how's harvest coming along in the Tuffnell area?
Well, some farmers are done, and some aren't.
Interesting. How are the yields looking?
Well, some of the farmers that didn't do so good are going to tell you their average crops yields because they don't want to look like bad farmers. But on the other hand, the ones that had a really good yield, they're just going to say it's average too because they don't want to be seen as rich bastards. So, all in all, yields are average.
Makes sense. Well, thanks for the very in-depth and up-to-date agriculture report, BMA. And the Prime Minister of Canada makes a very important announcement on all Canadian broadcasting channels. We go to our field commentator, Quick Dick, for his thoughts on the Prime Minister's address to the nation. Quick, what did you take away from that speech?
Did anybody inform the Prime Minister that Canada did not need a warm federal glass of almond milk and to be put to bed at 4:30 in the afternoon while we're all still working in Western Canada?
I gotta agree with you on that one, Quick. What were your thoughts on the tone of the Prime Minister?
Does the Prime Minister know that if he actually worked at opening up the economy, there are some bars and clubs where he can stand on a stage and deliver his shitty soliloquy instead of doing it on national television?
You make a good point, Quick. What about the references to the COVID app?
I'll tell you what. If the government can come up with an app that can notify the Sultan of Socks' supporters every time he's involved in an ethics breach or a scandal, and another app that can track the 20,000 missing infrastructure projects for Catherine McKenna, then perhaps they could move on to a COVID tracking app.
Seems logical, Quick. Thoughts on the finance issues that were addressed?
Yes, I would love to move to the magical fairyland in which the government takes on all financial debt loads so that no Canadians have to pay for it. Where does King Tut think the money comes from to pay for this mess of inconceivable debt that he's racked up? Earth to Justin Trudeau! It comes from Canadian taxpayers' pockets!
I hear you, Quick. What about the overall content and tone of the address?
Yeah, If I hear this guy tell me one more time that he's got my back, I'm gonna puke. Has anyone informed him that having someone's back does not involve stabbing a knife into it and ripping their wallet out of their back pocket as they fall to the ground?
We'll see if we can get that memo to the Prime Minister's office. What about the announcement of a second wave of COVID?
Oh, well, let's talk about a second wave, because this was a Trudeau's second wave at Canada. The first wave came from his father. Do you remember that wave? It was out the window of a train and involved a middle finger. This speech was exactly the same thing to Western Canada. This guy has the nerve to tell everyone that they won't see their families for Thanksgiving? This mule must be turned back out to pasture.
I gotta say I'm with you on that one, Quick. Thanks for that. Well, let's say we check in one last time with our sports commentator, Big Moustache Al. BMA, what's happening in the world of sports out in Tuffnell today?
Don't know. I don't like sports. I don't do sports.
Thanks for having your finger right on the pulse of the sports in the Tuffnell area, BMA. And finally tonight, in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, a cougar is sighted within the city limits, causing quite the panic. Let's check in with our field commentator once more, Quick Dick McDick. Quick, what's the best way of handling cougars?
Oh yeah, it's a pretty simple process there, Quick Dick.
Hello. Oh, Quick, we were actually referring to the animal, not the female kind.
Oh, that's a little embarrassing. I'd just call in the game wardens and let them handle that situation.
Great advice, Quick Dick. Great advice. Well, that's going to about do it for us here tonight. From everyone on the news team at the Tuffnell at 10 Studios, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.